Hey everybody, come on in. We got stuff to talk about. Today we're going to talk about all the different techniques that President Trump is using right before our eyes in terms of persuasion. Talk you off the ledge? No problem. Yes, it occurred to me that there are a lot of persuasion techniques that the president has in play right now. And I thought it would be useful to run over them. This is also sort of a very small preview of the sorts of things in my book, Win Bigly. So I'm going to go to my whiteboard. And the whiteboard here's a list of the persuasion techniques that we're seeing President Trump use right before our eyes. Let me go over them. Here at the top is visual. Visual persuasion is the best kind. Our visual sense is very strong. So when the president talks about border security, he very wisely talked about a wall because you could visualize it. It was something you saw in your mind. He also didn't give too much details so that we could all imagine the wall that we wanted to see. So there's actually two separate techniques there. One technique is making you visualize it, and then the other technique is leaving out details so you can visualize the wall that you want. So those are two really good persuasion moves. The third thing is simplicity. Had he started from the beginning saying, well, we want to increase border security in a variety of ways based on the terrain, and it won't all be a wall. Some places it might be digital security, in other places it might be different things. Had he done that, he would be far less effective than just say, wall. It's just going to be wall. Because simplicity is very persuasive. The person with the simplest plan always looks like the smart one, okay? So look at all we've got so far. We've got the visual of the wall. We've got simplicity. We've got him leaving out the details so that you can imagine the wall that you like. And then the other thing that I just forgot. Okay. Here's some more things. Pacing and leading. Pacing and leading is where you match the person you want to persuade in some way. In this case, the president has paced his base, meaning that he started off as the biggest badass on immigration, and they were quite passionate about immigration too. So President Trump became one with his base. You know, basically said, "I'm with you. I feel what you feel. I think what you think. I want to do the same things you want to do." Once he's one of them, that gives him the freedom to later move his base, and they'll move with him because they trust him. They say, okay, even though I know you can't maybe do everything you want to do because there are real world, limitations, we know that you want to. And if it were possible, we know you'd try. All right, that's about as good as you can get. So although they won't get what they imagined was the exact thing that they were going to get, most of his base will move with him. Not all of them, but most of them will move with him because they trust him, and he's getting results on immigration. There's already less immigration. The other thing he does a lot is he creates a fake asset to trade, in this case DACA. Now when I say a fake asset, what I mean is that realistically, from the first time I ever heard of what DACA was, I said to myself, they're not going to send back 800,000 people who think they are Americans, who don't know any other country. That's not going to happen. So there was never really any risk that they would be sent back. But because President Trump created the psychological feeling that it was totally possible, he created an imaginary asset that he then traded away for value. Now, the value that he got, and we don't know the details, but in theory, this is the value he got. The value he got was a larger budget, more emphasis on border security. Now, at this point, you're thinking, yeah, but it's not a wall. Okay, but hold that thought, all right? Before you build a wall or do anything else, first you need money. So the first thing he did was he created an imaginary asset, which is the risk of shipping these folks back, which was never real. And then he traded it away for value, actual money. So he traded something that wasn't real for something that is money. Most people watching this will think he got the worst deal. He didn't, because he got something real, and what he gave away was not real. All right, let's go back to the board. All right, another thing you see him do is make a big first offer, in this case, or big first demand, which was, hey, we'll ship back 800,000 people, all right? It was never real, but it was also big, so it makes whatever happens this less than that seem okay. And he also was originally talking about shipping back everybody who was undocumented, and he's backed off that. So anything he does now is going to seem more in the middle than it would have been if he hadn't started with such a big, aggressive offer. Strategic ambiguity. Here's the fun part. Strategic ambiguity is where you allow people to think whatever they want to think, as long as it makes them happy. Now, you saw that Pelosi and Schumer came out of the meeting and told their people, no wall, which probably means that there was just no agreement to do a wall. All right? Whereas President Trump can come out and say, oh, we're totally doing the wall. You know, maybe not Tuesday, but we're doing the wall because we didn't rule it out. We just didn't address it specifically. So that's strategic ambiguity. It allowed both sides to claim victory, and you can't really have a deal until both sides can go to their people and say, well, I got what I wanted. All right? Now, if you have a situation where they can't both get what they want, you have to use this strategic ambiguity to make it seem as though both sides got what they want, and that was done to perfection in this case. Another little trick is making you think past the sale. The sale is, do we secure the border better? Notice that we're not talking about, do we secure the border better? What has the conversation turned into? The conversation has turned into everything past the sale. The sale is, do we tighten the borders? We've all accepted that as true. That's all he wanted. He wanted a tighter border. Whether it's a physical wall, a lot less important than the fact that it's a tighter border. So now we're talking about the details, the funding, the specific look of these tighter borders. Well, he's already made the sale. The sale is a tighter border, right? That's what we want, or what his supporters want. They say they want a wall because that's what he's been talking about. But it won't take that much to persuade them that, how about just effectiveness? How about just doing a good job of securing the border? That doesn't make you happy. We still want a wall because, we're sort of emotionally attached to a wall, and you'll probably get a little wall somewhere, even if it's just an upgraded part of the span that might be a little bit larger. Now, here's the fun part. I call it the high ground maneuver. It's another persuasion play. Watch this. So the high ground is what you use when you want to basically end a debate. The high ground is where nobody can go higher and you just win. So the high ground here, the low ground is, should it be a wall or should it be some other kind of border thing? So the low ground is the details. The details of, is it a wall? Is it how much is funded? Is it all wall or a little bit of wall? What's it look like? Is there a solar panel on it? That stuff is in the weeds. The high ground is better border security. So watch him go to the high ground of, hey, better border security is the high ground. That's what we want. The details, I still want a wall too, but the details will work out. The other high ground he went to is that, if you saw in his tweet, he referred to some of the DACA folks as being in the military. All right, in our country, what's the ultimate high ground? Military service. So the moment he needed to move toward a position of keeping DACA, he immediately changed his argument from, hey, these people aren't documented, they're not Americans, they're taking jobs or whatever. And the moment he needed to soften it, he said, a lot of them were in the military. It's the high ground. You can't get much higher. All right. So look again. My cat's going crazy. Look again at all this technique. He had the visual of the wall. He kept it simple. These are all persuasion techniques. Kept it simple. Simplicity is very powerful. Visual is very powerful. He paced and led his base. He created a fake asset that he traded away because there was never really any risk that the DACA people would go home. He made a giant first demand, which is everybody's going home, everybody undocumented, send them all home. And that gave him lots of room to negotiate toward the middle. He used strategic ambiguity in this recent meeting with Pelosi and Schumer. They came away saying, no wall. He came away saying, oh yeah, better border security. Of course we'll get a wall. And makes everybody think past the sale because we're not thinking about, do we improve security on the border? We're thinking about how. And then he high grounds us all with, well, you know what, all that matters is whether it's effective. You know, is it effective? Yes or no? That's what you wanted. You don't care about what it looked like. We're not talking about decorations. We're caring about whether it works. So that's where he's going to go if he needs to. He's not quite there yet. And then with the DACA stuff, these are people who have jobs and they work in the military in many cases. That's the ultimate high ground. All right. Payson, lead, and Coulter off a cliff. All right. So I think one of the reasons I wanted to do this Periscope, to show you how many techniques are being used in this one situation, is that, you know, a couple of years ago when I saw that President Trump had these kinds of skills and was using them regularly, that's when I started calling him the likely winner of the election. It was because of this sort of thing. And you don't really appreciate how much technique goes into what he does until you see it all laid out like this. All right. So how many of you were surprised, or yeah, I guess surprised is the right word, at the number of persuasion methods that are in play right now? How many of you were surprised by that? Not surprised. Some were surprised. So I'm going up my stairs to check out my cat. It was acting weird. Okay, good. That's what I was going for. I was hoping that this stuff wasn't obvious. You know, one of the pitfalls of knowing this kind of material is that you kind of forget other people don't, and then you forget that you're watching a different movie. Oh, so those of you who read The Art of the Deal would have seen all of this, right? Yeah, if you read his book, The Art of the Deal, you probably would have seen all of this. Are those methods from The Art of the Deal? I don't know if all of it is. I think the high ground maneuver is probably one that only I talk about. And the fake asset, I don't know if that's in the book or not, but that's one that I talk about all the time. All right. Cernovich believes the Democrats' statement. Well, I'm sure that the Democrats believe it. Anyway, what matters is effectiveness of the border security. That's the high ground we're going to. And I think that's all I need to talk about today. We'll keep it short. And everybody have a good day. I'm on my second cup of coffee. I couldn't say cup. Second cup of coffee. And remember, don't win small when you can win bigly.